more about my grandfather's side of the family, who are the Yeldales, which is my mother's father. And so I started to do that. I started to learn more about my mom's family and how many they were and how large they were. I never wanted to think about going deeper, but in learning how big how many descendants my grandparents had, which was like 400 after I was done, I was like, oh, okay, well, may as well go deeper. So that's when I started going into trying to find out more about my grandfather's side of the family, and ended up coming to Moses. So let me share that. Have you turned that over to me yet?
There you go. I think so.
Okay. So this is where is it? How did it start? All right, so this story is about my fourth, fifth, and sixth great grandfather, Moses Williams. Moses Williams was born in 1769. I found out about him because I was doing some research on my research is on my mother's side. So I was doing some research on my mother's maternal, paternal father and his mother, and her name was Jane. And Jane had a father, and her father's name was Moses. So I was on the newspapers.com and I was doing some research on him, trying to find out more information about that Moses. That particular Moses was born in 1791. So as I was doing the research, I came up to an article, and the article is this little article that I'm getting ready to click on right here. It says, Negro farmer had 45 children. The fecundity of the Negro race, although well known, is always a matter of discussion and interest. The New York Evening Post on July 28, 1893 reported that one Moses Williams, a Negro farmer in Raleigh, North Carolina, 65 years old, as nearly as he could make out, but who did not appear to be over 50, had married twice and had begotten 45 children by his 2 wives. There were 50 grandchildren. Now, the original article actually goes into a little bit more detail. They actually tell you how many kids the first wife had and how many kids the second wife had. The first wife had 23, the second wife had 22 children. The numbers broke like this. The first wife had 20 girls and 3 boys. The second wife had 20 girls and 2 boys. So when I found that article, I was like, oh, I'm not doing, research on this man. I know who I am to him, so I ain't worried about nothing else. And I shared it but I did share it with Brian. And when I shared it with Brian, he was like, wow, that's interesting. That's real interesting. And then he didn't say anything else. And I just looked at him for a minute and I said, Brian, we're not doing this research, okay? And he was like, oh, yeah, okay. Let me get back with you. So he got back with me. And when he got back with me, with another article. It was actually a very small obituary that says aged man Moses Williams died, father of 43 children. He was 115 years old.
Oh.
So I looked at it and I was like, I'm counting on my fingers. I was like, that 115, when you subtract 115, and this was in 1884. And I was like, well, wait a minute now. When you subtract 115 from 1884, you don't get 1791. And I'm still on the my regular Moses. I said, that's not my Moses. He said, it's his dad. I was like, oh man, I'm not doing this. Oh, no, we're not getting into this. So one thing led to another, and of course we got into it. When you subtract 115 from 1884, you get 1769, and that's this Moses. So we went in and we started doing some research. The first thing we had to do with this particular search was go in by hand. Now, I am not the lead genealogist on this particular project. I am one of the ones that helped with it, which is why I asked Eunice to get Brian to do it. But she, we love each other. So anyway, he was the lead genealogist, and we were directed by him on which way to go. So at the beginning, this stuff had to be actually written out by hand. We had we had to look at different probate records, deed books, land books, wills, everything you could think of, anywhere where we thought we could find information about this man, Moses Williams, because one of the main things that was listed in the original article was that his information was verified. And so this is what we did, and they were right. Everything was just kind of right there. No one had started this research on this man. The story was sitting in the newspaper for hundreds of years, and no one knew that he was there. So we started our research, and we found out that Moses was born in Hanover County, Virginia, to a man named Daniel Williams II, who was also his enslaver. So his father was his enslaver. His mother was enslaved. We are unsure of what her name is, but we have an idea because the Williams family was very particular about their family, anybody who was connected to them, and that included their Black people. So they gave people, Moses and these two other women, they gave them options, which was something that didn't happen with enslaved people. Moses was able to choose where he wanted to go at one point. So were these two women, and they were elderly, and they were writing, Williams Line was writing ages of their enslaved people and giving you information about them. So we started just following Daniel Williams, which was his father. And as we followed Daniel went from Hanover and then somehow ended up in Granville County, North Carolina. That was the next place that we found him in 1790. And then from there, he ended up in Newberry County, South Carolina in 1792, because that's where our deeds were. There was records in these particular books. So in 1792, there was a deed in there where it named Moses in a deed between Daniel and his brother John Williams. Now, if you are a American Revolution follower, you know that John Williams was the man that fought in Kings Mountain and pretty much had a lot to do with saving some things when it came, certain areas when it came to the American Revolution. One of those areas, Edgefield, South Carolina, or back then, the 96th district. Then we started seeing him talk about Moses and 26 other people and passing them on to John or to John Jr. So there were definitely times where we would see Moses switch hands from people because they were supposed to have them, but then for some reason it stopped and they didn't apply these particular things. Moses ended up staying with his father. That was from 1792 through to 1795. By 1798, Daniel was now living in Lawrence County. So he was kind of all over the 96th district. And he was living in the Lawrence County area and wrote a deed there where it was a bill of sale to his brother Joseph. And Moses at that time, this was the first time we actually found out that he was 6 feet tall. We found out that he was a tall man. But he came back to Daniel. And at that point, Daniel went on by moving to about 1815. that's when he started actually saying that Moses had the opportunity to actually be with a man, his nephew, which was Davis Williams. But if Davis did not treat him properly, then he could go to wherever he wants. And at that point, we did some more research, and we ended up finding out, because everything that we've done with the Moses Williams Project, we've used records and we've used DNA. So we've used the DNA to connect people to these sets of folks that are a part of the Daniel Williams and his line. And in doing so, we were able to actually figure out that Moses's first wife was actually enslaved by a family called the AAHGS. And it was the AAHGS that he actually went to live with after Davis, Moses's nephew, actually did not treat him the way he should have been treated. So that is how he ended up with the AAHGS family. And he was with his first wife and some of their children. So then there was a huge gap where we couldn't find him anymore. And by the 1870 census, he popped up in Barnwell, South Carolina, with his second wife, Mariah Stallworth, and some of their children. From there, you see him again in 1880. He's still with Mariah on the 1880 census, but then on October 7th, 1884, Moses died. And he was, in so many ways, he was honored, because they're not going to show, they didn't give obituaries to Black people during that time period. And he actually got an obituary. So who are his children? How am I connected to them? My mom is connected to 2 girls and a boy from his first wife and 1 girl from his second wife. His first wife, so far, we have found 21 out of the 45 children. And from his first wife, it's 12 children that have been discovered. And these are their names here: Sarah, Alec, Moses Jr., Celia, Violet, Mary, or Polly, because we've seen her name as Polly, Nellie, Ida, Martha Ann, Lucretia, Francis, and there's another, we know that there's another unknown daughter, because this man, Morris Pearson Holloway, we could connect directly to him, and it's through who his mom is, and we only know that his mom is, not his mom, he cohabitated with her. We know he had children by a Williams woman, but we can't find her name. So that's why it's like that. So on this line, my mom connects to Moses and Violet and Martha. She connects to Moses on her mother's side. She connects to Violet on her mother's side. She connects to Martha on her mother and her father's side, because Martha had a good amount of kids, about 11 children. And those children, 2 of those daughters, one of them is my grandfather's great-grandmother. The other one is my grandmother's grandmother. So she connects to Martha on both sides. And not only does she connect to Martha on both sides, Martha is a different level of grandparent to her, depending on which side you're talking about. So for example, on my mother's side, her mother's grandmother's name is Molly Settles, which is Martha Ann's daughter. Well, that means that Molly is my mother's great-grandmother. But on my grandfather's side, and it would make Martha Ann my mother's second great-grandmother. But on my grandmother's side, Isabella Settles, who is Molly's sister and Martha Ann's daughter, is my grandfather's great-grandmother, which would make her my mother's second great-grandmother. So that means that Martha Ann on that side is my mother's third great-grandmother, but on her mother's side is my mother's second great-grandmother. as we go back, that makes Moses my mother's third and fourth great grandfather. So that's why I said he is my fourth, fifth, and sixth great grandfather. It goes in that order. And from every moment on after that, that's what's going to happen when it comes to that. And on this side, the second wife, I am a descendant through Matilda. Matilda is connected to my Elam line, and my Settles line. So she ends up being a double great grandmother because of that Settles connection. And it's a mess. It's a huge mess. As of right now in our research, we know that Moses had 45 kids. We know that we have 21 out of those 45 kids. We also know that those 21 kids, every last one of them have 10 or more children. So you're looking at 210 grandchildren. And if it continues to grow that way, which it looks like it's going to do, the rest of those kids, the other 24 children that we're looking for, are looking like that they're going to have 10 or more as well. So let's do the math on that. If this man has 45 kids and every last one of his kids had at least 10 children, you're looking at 450 grandchildren. And then if you double that, you go and you look at those 450 grandchildren, and each one of them start having a large number of children. We're talking about 4,500, 4,500, great grands just alone. We know that his grandchildren are actually doing double-digit children as well. My great grandmother, which is Lula Peterson, she had 10 children. My grandmother had 14 children. So the numbers are just astronomically long, and this is why we feel that that entire area dating up to about 1940, that entire area is related. Because if you look at the names of the women of the names of the people that these women were having children by, it's consistent. You have Elams, you have you got Elams, you have Sprouls, you have Adams, you have Josephs, you have Stevens, you have Settles, you got Deans, you have Stallings, you have Allens. Then on the other side, you have Mackeys, you have Duncans. This is just a handful of the people that we're connected to. Eunice had made the comment that we have over 50 surnames that was connected together. That's actually not right. It's 200. It's over 200 surnames. Okay. And those surnames, every last one of them connect to my mom. And that's how we kind of use that, because my mom became an Eve. She was literally connecting to everybody on one half of Edgefield, South Carolina. So my research right now is to continue the research of this, to continue to try to find the 24 children, as well as connecting them to everybody like Eunice. So I want to show you guys Eunice's PowerPoint with her connection to Moses. And basically her connection is through Ruth Settles Coleman. So how is Ruth Settles connected to Moses? Ruth Settles is connected to Martha through Martha Ann. So if Eunice is connected to Ruth Settles, then Eunice and I are cousins, because Ruth Settles is the daughter to, I think, Wesley Settles. And Wesley Settles is Martha Ann's son. That's why she and I are related. Now, we're not sharing the DNA, but we do have a paper trail on how we connect. Tony, this person right here, is how she found out that she was connected, through a woman named Tony Austin. Tony is one of, I think she's Ruth's daughter. And Tony is, that's how they end up matching each other because of that. Now this says 5th to 8th cousin. I'm not going to, I actually think it may be more, because our DNA is so convoluted in that area that we end up sharing a lot more DNA than we actually show. So this is saying that she shares 12 CMs with Tony, but it's probably more than that because Tony, if I'm not mistaken, is related to the Colemans too. So there's going to be some connection of on that Coleman side that we have to figure out and go through. So that's really our journey and what it is that we're trying to do, which is pick up all these surnames and figure out how we're connected to them. And the best way to do that is through DNA. This is I don't want to go through her whole slide, but this is how she's showing how Tony is connected to Moses. So this is Ruth. Ruth is the daughter of Warren Settles. That's what it is. And Warren is the father of Wesley. Ruth is Tony's mother. And as you go back, this is Martha Ann. And Martha Ann is one of the 40 daughters of Moses.
Hang on. What slide are you on? First wife or second wife?
This is Martha Ann is through the first wife.
Okay, all right.
Miss Haygood.
All right.
So Martha Ann is through Miss Haygood. And I think that's the only way that we are seeing right now Eunice connecting to Moses through Miss Haygood's line. So we're still trying to figure out who Miss Haygood is. We believe that Miss Haygood is one of, no, I'm saying that wrong. I'm sorry. We don't know who Miss Haygood is, but what we do know is that I was telling you guys about two women who was given the opportunity to do whatever they wanted to do. We believe that one of those women is Moses's mother. So we're still digging. We know that we have a lot of work to do when it comes to all of this, but overall, we're working it through. Do you guys have any questions? I mean, that's my overall talk about Moses. I can go deeper into my own research and what I've done, but Moses, if you have any connections to the Edgefield, South Carolina area, actually more so the 96th district, then you're probably going to end up being connected to him. I think Teresa Mays, your name is very, it jumps out at me because Mayses are from that area. And I was wondering if you have a connection to that area.
Teresa?
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. My volume was down. Rowena was having trouble getting on. I was trying to coach her. She's coming on now, I think. I'm sorry. Mays is my married name.
Okay.
And they're from Tate County, Independence, Bucksnort, that Coldwater, Victoria, all those different Mayses in that area.
Okay. It's a possibility. The Mays family actually goes from Virginia into South Carolina.
They have North Carolina. I know Richard Mays was in North Carolina.
Mm-hmm. They also cover North Carolina too.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just interested in knowing how you connect to the Mayses. So that's my speech. That's what I do. That's who I am. I try to help people. As far as the Calling All Branches is concerned, it was created in 2016 by me and another very iconic woman by the name of Opal Lee. And she's out of Texas, and she's related to me through my mom's Yeldale side, or my grandfather's side. And Opal said that we need to get the family together, and I told her, okay, I'll take it on. Now, she died before the first reunion happened, but her daughter showed up, and her daughter was there, and she was like, and every time afterwards, we're going to attend. So that brings in Weavers and Lees and Yeldales on that particular line. We cover every state. We're everywhere. We're from West Coast to East Coast. And what the Calling All Branches reunion does is hopefully families will come in, step in and say, yes, I'll host it this year, so we can travel to them and learn about their background and who they are and what they do, and just try to really get to know our families. And because that's something that we don't know. That's how and why the Calling All Branches got started. We do it every 2 years. Oh, thank you. We do it every 2 years. So we've been doing it. We did it 2016, 2018, then COVID hit and we couldn't do it in 2020, and did it again in 2022. And that's the listings of our families. So it's over 200 names. So if you guys see any name up there that you think you might be connected to, there is a possibility that it goes back to Edgefield, South Carolina. And my suggestion is that if you have DNA on like Ancestry, when you go in, type in the location area, type in Edgefield and see what comes up. Because if somebody comes up connected in the Edgefield area, you're probably related. So that's it. Do you guys have any questions?
I have a comment and a question. You know, Bernice Alexander Bennett.
Yes.
Did you ever hear or did you read the book that one of her callers has done on Edgefield? She's compiled a list of I don't know what, but it's definitely a directory.
One of her callers?
One of her guests when Bernice had her own show. So this is.
Oh, I think you're talking about.
She's an older woman.
Yeah, I think you're talking about. God, I can't. Thurman. Her last name is Thurman.
Doesn't ring a bell, but I'm old and I don't remember. But
I think it's because she did. I do know that. I believe her last name is Thurman, and she did a listing of newspaper articles that was, just really telling the story of Edgefield as a whole. And but I don't know, but she never republished it because she didn't get the kind of reviews that she wanted. And so it went from there. But Bernice is one of our cousins.
Okay. I'll let it alone then.
Any other questions for Danya?
Danya?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I have a DNA match to Manley, whose last name changed to Yeldell.
Hey, cousin.
Oh.
Yeldell, so the thing about the Yeldell researchers is that all Yeldells came from one man, regardless of race, ethnicity. They all came from this one man named Anthony from England. He was, I think it's Mersham, England. And he came over to Virginia and then into South Carolina. If you carry DNA and match Yeldells, then you're matching him. And you literally are related to every last Yeldell in the United States.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
How do
You
you
end up,
how do you pronounce or how do you spell that last name? And I'm finding it on here.
Yeldell.
Oh, Yeldell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. So Marquita, what's the name of the lady that you're related to?
It's a man. His name is Randall Manley. Randall.
And he has Yeldells in his line?
Yes, he goes back to a let me see. His goes back to Edmund, who goes by Manley and Yeldell.
Oh, okay. I know exactly who you're going to. So you're going back to the oldest Black Yelldell that was found. His name was Burrell. And
Yes.
yeah, if you're connected to them, Burrell had like, I think he had like 14 kids and 12 sons. And Edmund was one of them. Edmund would change his name. The Yelldale research is probably one of the most difficult researches you could ever do. Because if you look at this book, you see Yelldale at the bottom, but there's also Quarles, and they went by Quarles. They also went by Oliphants. They also went by Harrisons. They also went by Fuller. And they were disappearing in census records. Whole families just up and just disappeared. And you wouldn't see them again until you saw that they had changed their name. And you know it's the same family, same birth years for them and their kids, same names, everything. Their first names were the same. They just had a different last name. So the Yelldale research it's a monster. I kind of put that ancestor line on punishment. They gotta show me stuff in order for me to, to do that stuff. Because when I tell you that they're bad, like it's really, really bad and very difficult to research.
I also have Frazier, and they both, Yelldale and Frazier is on my paternal side.
Okay. I don't have direct connections to Fraziers other than my brother who's a Frazier. But if they are connected in Edgefield, South Carolina, then more than likely they're going to be related to my mother. So the thing about my mom is because she connects to all of those women and men through Moses, she's her own first cousin.
Wow.
She's literally her own cousin because she's related both on her father's side and her mother's side. So that connection is crazy. That's why, and she has all this DNA, and that's why all of these names pop up on my mother's DNA, every last one of them. And they go back to a specific person. Let's take Moses' daughter, go back to Martha Ann. Now, Martha Ann, let's take Martha Ann and Violet, those two sisters. Like I said, Martha Ann had Molly Settles, but Molly Settles turned around and married a man named Charles Peterson. Well, Charles Peterson is actually the son to Martha Ann's sister, Violet Williams. So Molly is the daughter-in-law and the niece to Violet Williams. Charles Peterson is my mother's grandmother's father. That's them. So she's got so many times where she's connecting to herself that it's ridiculous. It's just crazy. Just within that, Charles and Molly are first cousins and they married each other. Then when you go on her, still sticking to her mom, but going to her mother's father's side, her mother's father's side goes back to Jane Williams and John Sr. Well, Jane Williams is the daughter to Moses Jr. And John Sr. ended up marrying Lula Peterson. So Moses Jr. niece, which is Lula Peterson, great niece, which is Lula Peterson, married his grandson, John Sr. My mom is her own cousin in several different ways. And that's just on her mother's side.
From what you can find, are there any health conditions that are flowing through any of these lines?
Yes. At the beginning, a lot of people were dying from cerebral hemorrhage. I have that like on so many death records. It's crazy. But then it's changed and it was a lot of heart conditions. So, every time you see a condition on a death record, if you're not familiar with it, definitely Google it So one of the conditions on one death record that I found on her father's side, which was her grandmother, her paternal grandmother, she died, her name was Katie Adams, and Katie died from dropsy. Dropsy is congestive heart failure. That runs rapidly in my family. I mean, it is really bad. My mom has it. My mom actually has congestive heart failure. Then as far as the brain thing, I'm actually talking with a doctor because I have a son who's autistic. And in his autism, one of the things that they found was that he had a what they call a Chiari malformation in the back of his neck. So what is a Chiari malformation? Basically, that is when your skull kind of protrudes into where your brain fluid runs from the back of your neck all the way around. In most instances, if it protrudes too far out, you literally have to have brain surgery to shave down your skull to make so that your brain fluid can flow. Well, we found out recently, I'm gonna say about 2 years ago, I have the same thing. Had no clue about it, but I actually have that Chiari malformation as well. But thankfully, both me and my son, it's not to the point where we have to go and get anything shaved down or anything like that. But the doctor that I was talking to about it, because I told him, I was like, well, my son has this. Is it a hereditary thing? Did I pass it to him? And he was like, no. He said, it's hereditary. He said, it's because you got a lot of intermarrying in your family, don't you? And I said, I'm sorry, what? And he said, there's intermarrying. He said, that comes from intermarrying. And that's what happened. So,
Wow.
yeah, it's really a weird thing to, a lot of people need to realize that you got to find your family. You got to know who they are, or you could be walking down the street and get attracted to some man, not knowing that that man is your cousin. I can take you one even better. I actually did do that and didn't just learn through DNA. I just learned it that I have 4 children. My daughter's 29. My oldest son, who's 26, his father and I are related. My son has both. And guess who it's through? Moses Williams. It's through Moses. Because this one lady, I know exactly where she goes. When I saw, you know how Ancestry has that whole mother-father split thing? Even though I don't have it, my son has it on his. And basically, there's an area where it says where he shares on both sides. It's a woman with the last name Berry. Her father's last name is Berry. Well, there's Matilda, the Tildy that you saw in there on the second wife, Mariah. Tildy is connected to a man named Philip Berry, and that's my family. So we end up being related to each other. Never knew it. Never knew it. We've lived around each other. We kind of grew up around each other. I lived on 6th Street Northwest. He lived on 3rd and R Street Northwest. I went to Immaculate Conception. He attended the programs that was at Immaculate Conception. His mother has a picture of him with me in the background. This is because when she was showing me these pictures when we were dating, I was like, that's me. And she said, what? I said, yeah, that's me in there. She said, you went to Immaculate Conception? I was like, yeah. I said, but he didn't go. She said, no, he attended the programs. And I was in the background. We literally lived around the corner. You just don't know. You never know who your family is. You literally live around the corner from your family and don't even know it. And we met up and we had a child, and yeah, And he ends up, and then my child took a DNA test and for me to help me out. And we found out that I'm related to his dad. My child is my cousin.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. My child is my cousin.
So on the slides that you shared of the wives, and I noticed several of the wives married the dean into the dean line, but I don't see dean on here. So when I was telling you that Loretta Bellamy manages somebody's kids that matched to my cousin, he's a dean.
This should have been up there. 'Cause my mom said,
I'd like to see the trees again because I couldn't see them all. I kept seeing with the same screen. It never changed to that.
to the names of the ladies.
The trees you had up the two different the different wives, right?
Yes. Can you go back to that?
Yeah. Can you bring me back on? Am I still okay? Yeah.
Let me stop sharing.
Okay.
Okay.
So these are the first wife is, we know that she was and but we
Are
don't.
you seeing a tree? I don't see a tree.
It's not a tree. It's just their names.
but you want the
good, then.
tree.
I mean, I can show you guys my tree. Would you like to see that?
No, I'm sorry. I know when you were saying over here and I was not seeing anything. I kept thinking, what am I looking at? Okay.
No, I was showing you the names of the children that we have confirmed that are his, out of his 45 kids.
Okay.
So these 12 children right here are confirmed that of his children from his first wife.
Okay.
And out of these 12 children, my mom, and I'm actually wrong. I'm sorry. My mom is connected to 5 people up here, 4 people on this one and 1 on the other one. So my mother is connected to Moses, Violet, Martha, and Lucretia. Those are the 4 that my mom connects to. And all of them are from the first wife. On this particular slide, this is the other set of kids.
Okay.
And they're from the second wife. So you got Rose, I'm connected to Matilda directly. And then there's Margaret, Elizabeth, John, Amy or Annie, who married into the Dean family. Margaret married into the Dean family. And then you got Effie or Affie, who married right back into Williams lines as well. And then there's Caroline. And she married into the Allens.
Now, is there some reason why you have fewer from the younger set? Because there are 22 kids and you have about half, less than half, but you had more names that you could confirm from the first wife, which was the older group.
The first, it's funny, but the first wife, we were actually able to find more children.
And I'm asking why, since it was so old.
I think it was because of my mom's DNA at the very beginning, because my mom's DNA goes back to both of these wives, and we've come to find out that her haplogroup is the same for both wives. So it's in that it was between, let me go back to her so I can look at this. First of all, we found more here because we found more children here. So for example, Moses Williams Jr. had Jane Williams. Jane Williams had 16 kids. One of them was my great grandfather. And we were able to find all of those kids and then all of their DNA, and their DNA went out and spread into some of these children. So this was why we were able to find it. Then that was the same thing with Violet Williams. Violet Williams was the wife of the daughter of Moses, but the wife of Peter Peterson. Well, they had 12 children together. And those Petersons, those people, not only did they married themselves all the time. And they kept having kids. All of them have an abundance of children. My great grandmother had like 11. She had a sibling that had 15, another sibling that had 10, another sibling that had 12. So they were constantly having kids, and those kids were then going back to these same people. So that's why it was actually easier for us to find more for here than it was for the first one. Because we only have so many. My mom's DNA is the DNA that's being used. And on the second wife, it's only one.
Mm.
Whereas on the first wife, it's 4.
Mm. And I was going to ask you about the picture on the book cover, I guess it is.
This picture, so this book right here is called Anomalies and Curiosities of Medicine. The reason why this picture is up here is because this particular article was in this book. Moses was so documented that he was placed in the book because he was able to have so many children. In my opinion, the women should have been placed in the book. But because he was able to push out so many eggs, they decided to put him in this book.
Hmm.
So the siblings listed, are those Moses siblings?
Yes, I was getting ready to actually say that too. We were able to confirm 2 siblings as well. Caesar and Charlotte.
You got guts, girl, and brains.
I might have a little bit of brains, but the guts is all brine. It's all brine because we set him up for it because I wasn't gonna do it. I told him, and I meant that. Like when we first, it wasn't an argument, but I was mad at him. I was like, "You forcing me to do this, man, and I really don't want to go, and I don't want to do this. I don't want to dig into 45." The stories out of Edgefield is so crazy. There's another story of an enslaved man with the last name Brown, and it's rumored that he was a buck and that he actually fathered 100 kids. I'm not even trying to search that out. I'm not even trying to search that out. I don't know if it's true or not. I don't know. It's rumored. The only thing that helps us with Moses is the fact that his stuff is verified. It literally said that on the original article that it was verified. And then another thing that I want to point out, when I read this to you guys, it said the New York Evening Post on July 28th, 1893. He died in 1884. This article has been reposted at least 6 times on different dates. The oldest that we saw it was 1922. So it makes people think that it's not the same person. But when I tell you guys that the wording is exactly the same from the original article, it is exactly the same. This is him, without any doubt. And the one thing that we do know is that that when he died in 1884, 2 of his kids had died before him. So he outlived 2 of his children, according to the obituary, but it's all the same person.
You're breaking up a little.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, but it sort of goes in and out in mine.
So yeah, that's the story of Moses. Rowena has her hand up.
Yes, I have a question about, I was looking at this Edmund Allen I have a grand uncle who was named that. Now he was in the Tennessee, Mississippi area. Does that sound like that might be the same Allen branch?
It could be. I unfortunately I can't really say. I do know that a lot of Edgefieldians, 1880, they were going south to find their families.
Mhm.
Well, he was born in 1869, and
Well, I'm talking about after, but like so there was this whole exodus from Edgefield, South Carolina during Christmas time in 1880. And it was over 5,000 people, and they went to, I think it was Arkansas. But then there were some that actually traveled deeper south to go and find their families during that time. So if he was born in 69, there may have been some people that traveled down there to try. He may be a connection.
Okay, yeah, because they were Allens and Moores. His mother was a Moore, and his father was well, actually was Cole, and they changed it to Allen. But his mother was last name Moore.
Yeah.
And I see you've got that family as well.
Yeah, we have, yeah, my mom is considered Moore too.
And Rowena, I also have a line of Moors that came from South Carolina and North Carolina. The enslaved Moors was marched from South Carolina to the Fayette County. And so some of the Moor genealogist has done some research on that Moor line that came from South Carolina and North Carolina.
Now that's possible. That might be the same. There's so many stories, you know, people tell you all these, you got all these family legends and what happened, and none of it seems to pan out according to the DNA. But supposedly she was enslaved, and her husband actually supposedly bought her out of slavery and married her.
Okay.
But all her, if you go back to the Moore family, she named her children after, you know, she had an Edmund, John, the same names that her children were named were the same names as, you know, her father and grandfather and uncles and things,
Okay.
as they did back then.
Yeah,
Okay. Wow.
Freddie, and my biggest, the one thing that I say that you should do is, can you hear me?
Uh-huh.
Okay. The one thing that I say that everybody should do, especially if they tested on Ancestry, is to definitely go and type in the location area. Just type in Edgefield and see what pops up. Look at those people who has trees and see whose names are on there. If you go to Amazon.com and you look up my book, that's what I was trying to find, and it's not right here. But my book actually has every last one of those names on it. That way you can definitely see what names that you can make a comparison from the names in the book to the names that are popping up on your Ancestry DNA.
What is she cook? Is she cooking too?
I'm trying to pull up the link to the book.
I can do that.
Yeah, that.
I'm trying to post it in the chat. I'll post the link to the book in the chat.
Okay.
Marina, you have another question?
No, that was it.
Okay. I can't find it.
I got it. I just put it up there.
You found it?
Yep.
Oh. I got too many screens open or something.
I just posted it in the chat.
Alexa, announce. Alexa,
It's
announce.
Allison.
I couldn't find a book
Oh.
device named family.
Alexa, announce.
So do you have any other questions?
I think that's it. That was it. Get into it.
Okay, well, again, I thank you guys for having me. I hope I answered some questions. I hope I wasn't too boring. Um,
No.
No.
it's definitely an exciting research. It's a constant research. It's ongoing. And all I can say is if you are finding your connection to Edgefield, South Carolina, then you should definitely, try to get in, see where we are, try to get in touch with me or Eunice or some of the other researchers in that area.
Mute Allison. And then when you can finish talking, I'm sorry, that's what that is.
Okay, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
No, I mean, if you guys, want to talk to us about it, we're always open. Brian and I, we're always open to talk about it. We also, our Genealogy Adventures show talks about our research all the time, the time. You can find our Genealogy Adventures show on E360 TV, which is a streaming app that you can download, or on YouTube under Genealogy Adventures, or on Facebook also under Genealogy Adventures. And our show comes on every Sunday at 4 p.m. This is going to be our last show this Sunday coming up until Black History Month. And we always extend Black History Month into January. So we take the last Sunday in January to the last Sunday in February. And at that moment, we don't talk about genealogy. We talk about Black history, and we give information about people in history that you haven't learned about. Love Martin Luther King, love Malcolm X, love Harriet Tubman, but there were others. And we need to know that. And not just us, everybody needs to know that. A lot of people don't realize that the civil rights movement, it didn't just start at that time period. There was a precursor to it. So one of the things that I learned in my research was that my uncle was a part of the precursor. And that at Howard University, he formed the National Negro Congress. And he was one of the people, 1939. Yeah, Howard did that.
Howard, her ears perked up. She's heard Howard.
Ears perk up. But yeah, my uncle did that at Howard University in 1939, 1940, and it was a precursor to the civil rights movement. Rosa Parks wasn't the only person that sat on the bus. Matter of fact, Rosa Parks wasn't the first person that sat on the bus.
No.
There were several people that were doing it. Claudette Colvin sat on the bus. Mm-hmm. And she was 15 years old, and they felt like because she was too dark and not that attractive and pregnant, they didn't want to use her. Rosa Parks was a setup. It wasn't a something that was just done. It was a setup. So these are things that people really, they need to know who Claudette Colvin is. Matter of fact, in 1895, there was another woman who actually did the exact same thing on a trolley, and she won her case. So this is not the first time that Black women have done stuff like that. And right now they just focus on, we didn't become like this until the civil rights movement, until the 60s, and that's a lie.
What is it that your uncle did? I didn't understand the name of the formation.
National Negro Congress.
Okay.
His name was John Yeldell, John Carlton Yeldell. He was a Phi Beta Sigma, and there is actually an award that was named after him as far as Phi Beta Sigma was concerned. It was a award for legal, whatever legal jargon you want to say.
Mm-hmm. And he was there what years? He was there what years?
Oh, Jesus. He was there when my mom was born. My mom was born in 1939. So he was there as early as in like 30, in maybe 36 to 40 or something like that.
Let me ask you, is there any reason you might have a yearbook from any of those years?
I don't.
Nobody in the
Howard,
family?
Moreland Spingarn has like the digital Howard website, and they have some old yearbooks on there. I don't know if they have what
They
years they have them, but
They don't have that, and we found what we think is our case in one of the digital copies, but it's also the year that 3940 is the year that the guy who flew, the Tuskegee pilot who flew Mrs.
Roosevelt.
Thank you, around, he taught at Howard Civil Patrol System the year
Wow.
before that. And I need to find pictures of him, because that would mean I might be able to find the pictures of the other person I'm trying to find.
Wow. Have you
So-
looked at newspapers about him?
There wouldn't be anything in the newspaper unless they listed all of his students, because this student we need the student. And I thought that the connection to the pilot who became famous I might be able to find somewhere in the yearbook, the actual yearbook, even a picture with no name,
Man.
because we end
I
up
don't,
knowing.
unfortunately, I don't have any,
Okay,
he was the one in my family that actually did a lot of research and got back to, I believe it was my second great grandmother. It took me 24 years to do that. And he did it without the digital help that we have today.
Mhm.
So I found it to be just fascinating, but it took me forever to get to where his research ended before he died.
Mm.
Yeah, it took me
All
about
right.
24 years to get to that point.
I have a family all ready for you to research.
Oh, Lord. Well, I
So-
do thank you guys, huh?
Well, then I was going to say the same thing, that we'd like to thank you so much for taking your time out to spend with us and to share a part of your research and a part of your family with us here at AAHGS Memphis. I'm so grateful, and I will continue to follow you around like a little puppy. But thank you so much for sharing and breaking that down to us. Thank you. We appreciate it.
One quick question. Is
Yes,
there an
ma'am.
email contact for you?
Genealogy Adventures at e360tv.com. I can put that in the chat.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Please.
There you go.
There you go.
At 360tv.com.
E360.
Ooh, see, these are old eyes.
E360tv.com. Yes, ma'am.
And again, Genealogy Adventures is on Sunday evening at 4:00. And that's Eastern, what time? Eastern Standard Time?
Eastern Standard Time, 4 p.m.
4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
And it's on, you can find, we stream it on it is on TV. That E360 TV has an app. And you can download that app. It's on Amazon Fire Stick. It's on Roku. It's on Apple Plus. And it's one more, and it's on Android TV. So you can download the E360 TV app and find us on there. But it's, as much as I like for you guys to watch us on the TV screen, I also like for people to go to the YouTube or the Facebook page, because then you can participate, because we're very interactive with our audience, and you can ask questions to our guests, and we try to get those questions out there. And even if we can't get your question out there, we make sure that they get the question and they give us an answer to post it back up. So if you ever have a question about something, you will be able to ask it. We did one show, I don't know if any of you are interested in Black cemeteries, but that show was awesome. It gave a lot of information. I have actually some work to do because of that show. I have to, my great grandmother, Molly Settles, the one that I was telling you guys about, I found out she's buried under a park. So now I need them to go on over that park with those little GPS things that they have and see if there's any other bodies under there, and they need to remove them because it used to be a hospital.
Wow.
Yeah, so that Block Cemeteries one, that is one that is I would definitely recommend everybody to go watch.
And I would like to say that Sunday they did one of the shows they did. There's two shows. One of the shows was on Moses Williams. So if you want to get some more information about Moses Williams, because they went more in depth,
Yeah.
View that show. It was really, really awesome. I even learned some things that I didn't know in that show.
Yes, and I was getting ready to say that too. we did two shows this past weekend. One on Saturday, had our first special, and the other was on Sunday. And the Sunday show was on Moses. The Saturday show was on the show Relative Race. We actually had the creators and the producer. If you guys ever watched that, we had the creators and the producers and the genealogists from that show on, and we were talking to them for an hour and a half. Great show.
Hmm.
I have to go pick up my son.
So with that, we thank you so much.
Thank you for having me here. And I look forward to hearing from you guys. Thank you all.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Hey,
Thank you, guys.
You remind us
Thank
about
you.
thank
Saturday.
you.
Remind us about Saturday.
A reminder, on Saturday, we have our holiday luncheon, Saturday at 11:30 at the Medallion restaurant on Central. And so we'll be doing our left-right holidays gift exchange
That's the Holiday Inn.
inside the Holiday Inn, yes. So hope to see you there.
So
The
are
bell's on.
we're supposed to bring a gift?
Uh-huh.
Yes.
And was there like a price range?
$10 to $20 gift. Uh-huh.
Yeah, we want to get that out there in case somebody missed it.
Thank you.
I missed
Thank
that part.
All right, I'll see those who will be there.
All right.
All right. Have a good night.
Good show. Thank
Thank
you.
you. I'm going to stop recording.